10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Staffing Playbook podcast. Today's episode is Bridging the Generational Gap and Gen Z's impact on today's workforce. We have a great panel here today. I'm joined here for the second time by Ian McLeod, who is the founder of Grow Up Leadership. If you haven't checked out his social channels, you need to. It's hilarious. He dresses up in all these different wigs and outfits and it has some of the funniest videos when it comes to leadership. And, we all learn from entertainment. So check out Ian's channel. We've got also Pon here, Pon Vorasane. She was nominated Utah's 20 in their 20s most successful leaders in 2023. She is a Gen Z. So we get to pick on Pon today and have a little fun. But also she's gonna probably bring some insights on here that'll make us kind of eat our own words, and she'll give us some unique perspectives. If you are an HR leader, if you're a people manager, you definitely want to tune in today's show. We're going to talk about the comparison of different generations, but more importantly, we're going to talk about some tips for you as an employer of how you can lead multiple generations, because it's not just the boomers in your workforce. It's not just Gen X. It's not just us millennials. So I'm a millennial. But you've got Gen Z that's also in the workplace, and all of them at once. So it is a lot to manage, and we've got some tips for you. So welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. I've heard a lot about Ian. I've Google searched you. So I'm super excited to see you. And then I've just been hearing a lot about what's going on, hearing a lot of talk about Gen Z. And in fact, I even have a younger team myself, and just learning how to bridge those gaps and learn what they really care about and what we all really want to care about together to kind of take things to the next level is awesome.
That's awesome. All right. We've got Mark Webb that just commented. He's excited. We're excited too, Mark. All right. So Ian and Pon, before we get started, I'm going to set the stage here with a short 2-minute video of, a little bit of a Gen Z maybe crying at work. This is published. It's all over the internet. So, we feel really bad about this employee and we care a lot about this individual, but it's to set the stage of there's countless viral videos of Gen Z having a hard time with a 40-hour work schedule and beyond. I'm not poking fun, but it's just what we're seeing. So let's talk about it. So with that, I'm going to tee it up. For those that are listening, you won't be able to see this, but if you're on YouTube, Spotify, or LinkedIn, you can actually see the video. Here we go.
There's no way some of these younger Gen Z people could weather such a storm without quitting.
The definition of what full-time employment is up for debate. That this young generation seems less capable to deal with stress than previous generations. That is true. And so they're really good at presenting a confidence that they don't have. They sound like they have all the answers when they don't. It raises the question, is that bad?
People wonder why we need a union at Starbucks, and I am literally about to quit. I don't know if I'm going to do it, but I really want to. I almost walked out today, and I'm crying in the back room right now, and I almost cry on the floor. It's just, I'm like a full-time student. I get scheduled for 25 hours a week, and on weekends they schedule me the entire day, open to close. I'm on the schedule for 8.5 hours, both Saturday and Sunday. I'm 3.5 hours into my shift. There's so many customers, and we have 4 people on the floor all day. Only 5 people were put on the schedule, and somebody had to call out, and there are 4 people running the whole store, and there's so many customers, and there's possibly scheduled 5 people. We only have 13 people employed at this store, and there's so many customers, and they are good. We don't have fair scheduling. Managers don't care about us. Our manager was supposed to come in this weekend, and he took himself off the schedule, so he wouldn't be able to be held accountable for calling out. He just literally tore down the schedule that he was scheduled on and put up a new schedule where he wasn't on the schedule. Also, he couldn't have even seen that he was scheduled in the first place because he didn't want to be held accountable for not wanting to come in. They don't want to help us. We need a union because this can't happen. This can't happen. We need fair scheduling. We need managers to hold themselves accountable for helping their workers. They refuse to turn mobile orders off. We need the liberty to be able to do that because there's so many mobile orders and I need to get through all of them. And then people are yelling at me because they don't have their orders ready. And they don't know what to do.
That is a hard video to watch.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ian, first reactions.
So, just taking a step back. So you indicated you're a millennial, Stephen, which I assume I'm kind of on the younger side of the Gen X. So I think we got a good spectrum here. I think this is the what's happening here is, and I think Gen Z has really sparking this kind of workplace revolution because they're being vocal about problems that have always existed, right?
Mm-hmm.
These things are not new. Matter of fact, I feel like I will say in my experience, the workplace is improving. Things are getting better. There's much more focus on empathy. There's much more focus on building better relationships, building trust, balancing work-life concerns for all staff, right? Certainly, everybody went through the pandemic, not just Gen Z. So everybody was dealing with this stuff. It's just, I think the difference is that Gen Z, and I appreciate this, is that they are much more vocal and open about what the problems are and how this needs to change. Now, sometimes, yes, you do just have to suck it up and deal with whatever it is. And I think that was an expectation, certainly, of the boomer generation. Was definitely, there was no sharing any of your employee complaints to anyone
Or your feelings
or any of that. It was really just suck it up. Gen X, certainly that became more of we also got associated with the slacker generation and the latchkey kids and that kind of stuff. And so I think we were left to our own devices a lot, and we didn't have somebody to complain to because there was literally nobody there to share those complaints with. But I think these problems have always existed. It's just now Gen Z is much more open. And the reason why I think that exists is simply because Gen Z is the first generation that really has, for their entirety, has had the internet and social media to some extent, a place to share their concerns, their ideas, their opinions, and people to actually engage with those and to find an audience and a followership that actually agrees with them. And so they are used to sharing that. There was nobody for me to share that with when I was younger. And it just, you vented in the back with your coworkers. But anyways, I think as much as it can be a challenge, and I think that there are some great things that Gen Z is bringing forth and really, again, sparking a workplace revolution.
Wow, that was not a response I would have expected from a Gen Xer.
I'm empathetic.
Well, you said a lot of good things that we're going to go into. Before we do that, I want to get a Gen Z's perspective. Pon, what's your first reaction to that video?
I definitely was feeling it from a core, especially when he was talking about being in school and feeling like there's just so much on his plate and there's so much he has to take care of. I will say I grew up with a lot more traditional parents. And so my really strong foundation growing up was, hey, it's going to take a lot of hard work, faith, and belief in yourself. And if you can understand that, then you can kind of go into there and really hone that in. I do agree with what Ian said about, hey, we grew up in a period of time with rapid technology advancements, right? Like we had the internet and we learned community and having a sense of community from there, but we also had to really adapt to the new technologies that are coming in. And because of that, I feel like it gave us kind of this big sense of like, what do I prioritize and what do I want from the workplace? And it made a lot of companies actually sit and hear, hey, the next generation coming in, they care about their mental health and their priorities and how they balance that work-life schedule. And if that's a priority to them and they're coming into our workforce, we got to make that change. And it's nice that being vocal and being heard is allowing that change. And so I think it's just amazing on both sides.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I watched that video probably a year ago, and I'm sad to admit I laughed like really loud and obnoxiously because I can't relate to that because the way I was raised as well. But in hindsight, as I've grown and matured over time and watching it again here today, there's a lot more empathy for me now, towards these individuals that are struggling in the workplace. But it does, Ian, you brought up a good point that these problems have always existed. It's just, we didn't have social to highlight our problems, right? And it wasn't, encouraged to be on social media and be posting all these different things in your personal life. Facebook was originally just, for colleges, and you had not Facebook, MySpace before that, and it was just kind of like a Twitter with some photos and friends. But yeah, I think that's an important note, that it's just being highlighted in a different way. There's more, you've got social media now where you can just highlight these things. And then upon the technology piece, growing up with that technology, certainly you learn how to streamline things, do things more efficient. And you're almost used to just having things done at a moment's notice for you. And so when you go into the workplace and that's not so much the case, that can be a challenge. But let's jump into, we've got a Gen Z here. I'm a millennial. Ian's a Gen X. Let's break down the comparisons between the generations. So let's start with baby boomers, who are still in the workforce, by the way. These are individuals born from between 1946 and 1964. They value job security, loyalty. They appreciate traditional hierarchy in a company. Like, you would never go to your boss's boss. Like, you wouldn't even look at your boss's boss, let alone talk to your boss's boss, right? Or you'd be out of there. And then you have Gen X. So that's you, Ian. 1965 to 1980. Typically values independence, self-reliance, and have a preference for structure and having a structured work environment. Very much like, just tell me what I need to do, give me the plan, and I'll execute. Like, simple as that, right? Then you have, us millennials, me, born between 1981 and 1996. I'm towards the beginning of the millennial. I'm an old millennial. We value flexibility, work-life balance, but we are certainly more focused on collaboration and teamwork. And then we have Gen Z, which is Gen Z doesn't give it to me. Where'd it go?
I think it's like 98.
98.
Yeah, 98 and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Prefers flexibility, remote work, clear career path with opportunities for growth. They want to know, as a frontline cashier, how long it's going to take before they can be a CEO or get CEO pay, and can we get it done in a month? So, thoughts on the four? What did I miss?
I'm definitely with the career path one. Like, I remember my first job was at Noodles and Company, and I was like, how am I going to be the manager of this place? And my first job was to read the menu to everyone. And so I definitely agree with that one there.
And I will say, I certainly, in a leadership position, I have seen that and echo that quite a bit. I mean, it was astonishing how many, new hires would come through that were from either the kind of late millennial or early Gen Z, or just Gen Z in general. And and how often they were so dedicated to like, I want to move up to, I want your job kind of thing. And it was like, first conversation. So, which was just fascinating to me. It took me, I was in a frontline position for 5 years before I ever moved up to a supervisor role, or even just thought about doing that. That wasn't a thing for my generation as far as like climbing the ladder and this extreme ambition. I think that's an interesting topic on its own, because I think that's a challenge for employers, because it's hard to keep people in their roles. People are, you don't see people in Gen Z who have, a really lengthy tenure. I mean, I was with the American Cancer Society, the company I was with for 20 years. So, you see, maybe 2-3 years, and then they're trying to move on to some other company at the longest even. So fascinating challenge on its own, just the idea of this generation really wanting to advance, which I think is a great thing. And certainly from a leadership standpoint, you can leverage that quite a bit.
Yeah. Pon, you might agree with this, but your generation really values life over work. You want it all at work, and you want it fast, just like your social media feed, or getting answers by AI. So that's definitely a real challenge. But it sounds like that Gen Z really values life over work, not work-life balance. There's none of that. It's life over work. Work is just a means to an end, but also I want to be super successful and really fast. Do you agree with that?
I agree, but not to a full extent. The reason why I say that is I think it's so great that Gen Z has this, like, I want a great work-life balance, and I want to be able to do what I want to do outside of work while still maintaining this high pressure, elevated environment at work. I agree to that. And the reason why I kind of say not really is I think it also comes with a certain level of maturity or emotional intelligence, right? Because it is one thing to have a role where you don't feel like it's pushing a purpose or a passion with you. And then there's a way where you have a role that you feel like it's fulfilling those sides of you. And when you find a role that is fulfilling that life's purpose, that mission that you want to go out and conquer, it doesn't really feel the same as, well, I have to go work here for 8 hours a day, and then at the end of the day, hurry and go and get groceries, right? When you go out on your day and you're like, wow, I really pushed my purpose. I went out there and got after what I believed to be what the universe needed, and I feel great. And now I can go home and spend time with my family. That's a totally different outlook there. And so I agree with it. And I also think that it kind of has a movement in and of itself, right? Where it's the hill of, I want this, I'm dedicated, I'm ambitious for this. This isn't really what I needed or wanted, and I'm still not moving. Or I really want this, I'm ambitious, it's not working the way I want. How am I going to find and get after that? I'm here, I'm going after it, and I keep pushing that way.
I love what you just said, because I actually should have teed this up differently. Your generation, the value system that you have, the purpose you're finding in life, that's like top of mind. That's number one. When you're going into a workplace, is you're looking for companies that have a similar value system and something that brings the best out of you, has a greater purpose than just, making a profit. And I think with Ian's generation, my own, we find that later in our career. In the beginning of our careers, it's work, got to put money on the table, got to climb the ladder. However long that takes, if it takes me 30 years, I'll do it. And then, towards, the late set of your career, when you've really, have settled in and you've got some great experience, you're making an impact, you start switching into that value system. And which I believe that really has heavily influenced the Gen Z generation, because you're working for the millennials, you're working for the Gen Xers, you're working for the baby boomers who have now found their value system, and you get to find that from the very beginning with the onset. Yeah,
and it's really crazy how it works too, because I would actually say that has to do with the amount of times Gen Z goes into job jumping, right? So I will be transparent about it. I've had about 11 jobs.
11?
I've had about 11 jobs, and my job that I have right now, my role here at Yes, is my longest standing role I've ever had in my career. And part of that jump, right, is, hey, I'm at a place here where they value coming in and making sure that there's service delivery. And hey, I'm sorry something happened to you, but I need you here and now, and I can't be flexible with you because of your schedule. Where then you start getting to a place where it's like, I need someone who values what's happening outside of my life here so that I can be flexible with what's going on. And as soon as Gen Z kind of sees that I don't have that sense of community or support, they leave really fast, right? Because they are pinpointed on those values that they want in a role.
Yeah.
Yeah, my generation, we just complained about it in the background all the time. And to the point, generations aside, I think what's really happening, and again, where I think Gen Z, the benefit is Gen Z has been vocal, and felt able to share these kind of things. I mean, the fact that this gentleman on the video was shared, and he's crying and that kind of thing. I mean, there's no way I would have never, ever even thought to do that. But the fact that he feels comfortable and confident in doing that, and that his voice is going to be heard, and some people it's going to resonate. But some people may laugh, or have their criticisms and opinions, but there's somebody out there who's going to listen. That in itself, with the fact that this generation is sharing these concerns and again really sparking this kind of revolution, I think has helped foster what behavioral sciences. So again, looking past generations, behavioral sciences has been uncovering all these things about the importance of purpose. I mean, you had, in that video, you had Simon Sinek there, huge proponent of uncovering and explaining the why. Gen Z and everybody in every generation wants to know why they're being asked to do whatever they're being asked to do. And so sharing that transparency, sharing the background as to why we're making these decisions or going this route, or why these, performance expectations exist, or what have you, those things are important to everyone. And it's just the fact that Gen Z has been vocal enough and confident enough to kind of ask and demand these things, I think has really sparked this continued change. Behavioral sciences, again, you got Simon Sinek, Adam Grant, Brene Brown, all these people uncovering, and a ton of other folks, with behavioral science research, psychology, organizational psychology, sharing that it's uncovering all these things that we need to see in a workplace: empathy, trust, all these different things that are now being asked for are things that have been beneficial and would have been beneficial to previous generations. I mean, we should have been doing this back with the boomer generation, to be quite honest, and we just weren't.
Fighting words.
Yeah, I mean, no, but I honestly think they could have benefited. On one of our previous shows, Stephen, I shared, that example of that organization that was changing the lighting. I think I shared this with you.
You did. Yeah.
And really what they found out, it wasn't about changing the lighting. It was the simple fact that they were asking their employees how they felt about work, and just that simple engagement made their productivity and performance go up. So every person, on the planet can benefit from empathy, from work-life balance, from engagement, and building purpose. And so it's just Gen Z happens to be the group that's been demanding it, and I applaud them for it.
Well, the behavioral science and the psychology is certainly important, and it's helped us understand the differences in within and outside of the generations. But more practical level, just working with a line lead in a production facility or a warehouse manager, and they've got Gen Zs coming up into the workplace, and they don't understand. A lot of people just don't understand the behavioral science or the psychology. All they know is you want a mental health day every other week. You want to go home for every birthday and every holiday. You want to climb the ladder without working for it. this is what a lot of these frontline supervisors are seeing. How do we bridge that gap?
So I have some thoughts on that. I can certainly share. I don't know if that means that y'all would agree with me or not, but certainly I can share what I see. So, as optimistic and as the praise that I'm providing to Gen Z, I think there is a challenge as well that I also see too. And this again leans more towards the psychology standpoint and how people behave and interact. So one of the things that I see, with Gen Z, again, they have been able to be very vocal about their opinions, especially on social media, that kind of thing. And they have a following behind that. One of the things, though, that happens, and we see this, and this is why I think there's so much divisiveness that you see online, especially because the reality is, from a behavioral science standpoint, if I have a strong opinion and it differs from you, either of you, and I share that, all I'm doing is even if I have the best facts in the world and I have the strongest argument and I'm great at debate and I out debate you in every single way, I will not, for about 99.99% of the time, I will not change your mind. Your mind will not change, right? So you will stick with your belief, and I have my belief. I might be a strong advocate for it. And so what's happening online is that these people are sharing their opinions, their thoughts, that kind of thing, and they find other people who also agree with them, and they build that following. And but you have the other side who they're arguing with. These two sides are arguing, and neither side is really winning. They're just in their mind winning because they have other people who also agree with them come in. Not that that's a whole nother challenge and issue, but it does create this divisiveness. Divisiveness can live on the social media is big enough where that can live there, but you can't, in a workplace, you can't have this kind of divisiveness going on, right? You need to have collaboration, and that's where I think the opportunity lies in the fact that, unfortunately, Gen Z, although they are making these great points and sharing it, and I applaud them for that, they're not always making the right argument because they're not taking a collaborative approach. So sorry, I'll let y'all talk. I promise I won't take the whole thing, but the better approach is to, from a psychology standpoint, and even from a sales persuasion standpoint, the better approach is to always first start with where that person is, right? Where are they? Make sure that they feel heard, make sure that they feel understood, make sure that their opinions are valued, and we value your opinion in this workspace. Now that you feel valued, would it be okay? Are you open to hearing another perspective? And then I can go ahead and share mine. And again, that's that work to be more collaborative. Without it, that's why you have these challenges and the two sides just butting heads.
Interesting. Fawn, how do you feel about what Eden just shared?
Oh, I love what he had to share. I think collaboration is definitely the key. With Gen Z, and we grew up in this really fast tech evolution. We also had the pandemic, right? I even remember hearing growing up, we're living through history. Like, this is going to be in history books. And one of the big things that comes from that is we're all still people at the end of the day, right? We're all people. We all want to be understood. We all want to be heard and seen. And I think that collaboration piece works so well with Gen Z's kind of continuous learning and growth that they kind of drive because of that technology evolution that they went through. So now they're continuous learners. They want to grow. And that's why they're always asking, what's my career path? What else do I got to do? And when you key that in with collaboration, that can really take things to new heights. Because like I said, we know they're continuous learners. They're into their growth. They want to collaborate, and they have this entrepreneur spirit, right? I want to do this. I want to take it on. Trust me. I know that I don't have what it looks like. You know, I don't have the experience. I don't have the title. I don't have the look. But if you give me a chance and collaborate with me and teach me your skills, I can take you to new heights. And we see that with platforms like TikTok and YouTube, Facebook, all the social media that comes in now with businesses.
Stephen, you seem still unconvinced here. So let me take it a step further to that line supervisor that you're talking about, who's faced with this kind of challenging staff person. Where I'm going is just making sure first, instead of quickly going to, I disagree, I can't believe you're asking for all this, you know, this is not how I do it, this is not how. Instead, make sure that person, that employee who's saying these things, making these demands, that they feel heard and understood and valued for what they're doing. Then you can say, okay, but here is would you be open to another perspective? Here's what we have going on, and try to help them see that, to Pon's point, help them see the bigger picture, create that collaborative, because they oftentimes want to learn and oftentimes may be more open to actually learning, developing, and growing, and say, you know, look, I hear what you're saying, you know, frontline person. If I was a supervisor, I totally understand what you're wanting, what you're needing. I don't disagree with that. But we need to consider this bigger picture, these, you know, the rest of your employees, the goals that we're trying to meet, those kind of things. Leadership oftentimes is about creating collaboration, and you know, fostering that collaboration, and it's oftentimes about ensuring that you are balancing customer, employee, and business needs well, and making sure that you're communicating that bigger picture to your staff.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Ian. You know, it makes me think of, when it comes to generations versus Gen Z generation, you have IQ versus EQ. Let me explain. So you have this institutional knowledge that the older generations have, and the way they went about acquiring that knowledge through, you know, sweat equity, blood, sweat, and tears. Not so much on the tear side if you're a X or baby boomer, and and so you have this they're more challenged with EQ, right? You know, therapy was not a cool thing to talk about. Like, hey, I go to therapy every week. Isn't that cool? It's like, no, that was not cool. That was not acceptable. And so you have this Gen Z that they have a lot of that EQ, and of course they've got the IQ as well, but that combination is pretty dangerous to the older generations. And it's like, what do you, like, kid, get out of here. Like, I've been doing this 2 times longer than you've been alive. Like, you coming to me with these ideas, like, forget about it. Get out of my office. And which is a mistake, I think. Going back to what I've been hearing from Pon and Ian is Gen Z wants to be heard. We all want to be heard at our core level, right? One of the biggest problems that faces the world today, that plagues the world, is loneliness. We're all lonely. And we try to substitute that with social media. And so we all at our core want to be heard. And that's not a soft skill that most of the generations from millennials up have been taught. Am I wrong?
You're right. I agree.
I don't think you're right or wrong, but I just don't think that's a way that it doesn't work as well as the other.
Yes.
So I think, and this brings up kind of a larger point, particularly I see this with companies that struggle with diversity, equity, and inclusion kind of programs. Is one, so there's oftentimes what they're missing is they're not communicating the importance of having a diverse workforce, and not just because of differences in race or gender or even age or anything, but because having a variety of different ideas and knowledge points in comparison to just a homogeneous, everybody thinks, talks, acts, has the same experience, there has been multiple research studies that have made correlations and direct connections between companies that have a diverse workforce, having higher productivity, higher innovation, higher retention, higher morale, in some cases even higher performance. So the understanding the value of diverse thoughts, and to your point, Stephen, I think what you're saying is that, look, both sides, and this is what I'm saying, both sides can learn from each other. And to Pon's point, I mean, at the very least, if Gen Z is open to learning from, I think that the challenge is when you have these two different parties that think they're both right, these two different groups, right, that they think, I think I'm right, I think I'm right, and they're not willing to listen to each other. But if you can just get past that and see the value in having both of those ideas collaborating and working together, you're going to be much more successful in your outcomes, and people will be much happier on both sides. So it's just making sure both sides feel valued and heard, and again, taking that collaborative approach.
No, that's a great point. And whether you want to do it or not, you're almost forced to, because this is the emerging workforce. You've got to learn how to communicate and lead this emerging workforce the way that they have asked to be led. I want to put the focus on Pon here for a second, our special guest, who is a Gen Z. Pon is a highly successful Gen Z. She's in her 20s, and she is already the director of IT at a large staffing firm. Ian, let's start with your generation. How long do you think it would take for someone to reach that role from age 18 to become the director of IT for a large staffing firm?
Oh gosh, that would, at least 10 years probably. And that would have been,
2 degrees, 10 years of work experience.
Yeah. I mean,
waiting for the next guy to retire.
That's a considerable amount of work. And I think most people from my generation wouldn't even have thought to try to move to that level. So, I certainly congratulate you on your success. That's outstanding.
Thank you.
So, Pon, for the Gen Z listeners out there, I don't believe you're an outlier. And although what you've done is clearly impressive, but what sets you apart? Someone like yourself with your generation, how have you acquired the skill set, the wherewithal, and to find the opportunities to that helped you get to where you're at today?
I would say one of the big parts, and surprising enough, I know everyone's gonna be like, no, don't say this, but I am gonna say it. I'm gonna say it was my job experience and job hopping, right? That is, as I was switching into these roles and careers, I already knew going into work that, hey, I don't want to go to a restaurant every day. I don't want to be like that girl that I saw in Gossip Girl who was doing all the same stuff every day and not liking her job. I actually wanted to be that girl in the business suit who came in every day ready to go and was excited for her role and knew that she was making an impact on the world with her role. And with that idea in mind already and knowing that outcome, as I walked into each role, not only was it, hey, how am I going to do the best for this role and see what they need here? It was also, how are they treating me to make me feel that way? How are they upskilling me to make me feel that way? And as soon as I knew I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it, that big purposeful outcome, it was like, okay, we got to move to the next one. And so I would say a big part of it is, hey, know your goals, know your outcomes, and follow that intuition, right? Even if you don't know in hindsight what you want to be, but you know who you want to be, right? So not what you want to be, but who you want to be. That's really that big foundation that takes it there. And then once you get into the workforce, it's just honing in those skill sets, okay? One example that I would always do is I'd look for that person on the team that was gleaming and shining, right? Like, oh, I want to be like them. I want to be that person. And it didn't come from a point of view of, I'm going to beat them, I'm going to be competitive, but it actually came from I want to learn from you. Why do you do this way? What does it mean when you do that? Why is that important? And if they felt like for some reason, maybe I was coming off as annoying or something, I would talk to my parents about it. My parents would always be like, oh, you just got to, give them some time, give them some space, maybe bring them an apple one day. It's okay to bring someone an apple. and then sitting down and saying, hey, I really want to learn this. And when it came down to that people to people level on, hey, this is where I am now. I see you, you inspire me. What are you seeing that doesn't seem like I can make the cut? Or how are you seeing how I can upskill? And seeing them hear that feedback and like, oh, she wants to learn. She thinks I can teach her. I believe she has the potential, and taking that up together, that really took my upskill to new heights in any role I went to.
Impressive. I mean, I will say like that's the thing. I think the what I'm hearing is there's a lot of ambition there, which is outstanding. It took me a while to even think about doing. I will say, what's funny from the Gen X standpoint, there was this several years ago, there was a whole quiet quitting thing, and people were quiet, I'm not gonna work as hard. I'm not gonna be as ambitious. And I'm like, and I think my whole generation was like, what do you mean quiet quitting? That's how we operated all the time. Like we weren't being ambitious, so, this whole kind of like idea of taking all this information and really trying to develop and upskill, it's something fascinating that I think that just again, because you have access to so much information. I mean, my generation, we didn't have YouTube videos on how to fix this or how to do that. I mean, we'd have to go to like a store or some place and find somebody in a back alley who would tell you this, this little nugget of information, So yeah, I love that you were able to leverage all this and have such ambition and move so quickly. And I think that's an awesome thing. Again, I think for folks to leverage and take advantage.
I will definitely say that it has come with challenges though. One really big one that will probably hit home with everyone, right, is we have a hard digital dependency. I remember being in training classes and they're asking us questions and we're like, if you just gave us our cell phone for 1 second, we'd give you the answer. Why are you making us learn this way? And then just having that need for instant gratification, right? I definitely had a phase where I would do one thing, do it super well, straight to my manager's office. Hey, did you see this? Did you like that? And then back, you did great. Try next time. You should try this. Okay, the next time it happens, back in the office. Did you see that? I want to know right now. How did that make me feel good? Give me my gratification. I'm doing the job well.
Yeah, we've only got a few minutes here. What really stood out, Pon, is know your goals and more importantly, know who you want to be. Your jobs have been a means to an end. The job hopping was, hey, I'm going to get what I need to get out of this job. And once I can't get any more, I'm going to move to the next one. And I remember this was about 7 years ago. I was attending a conference and one of the co-founders of LinkedIn was speaking, and he was really talking about look, your average job length, I can't remember the exact number, if 50,000 to 90,000 a year, or maybe it was less than that, was 18 months. And he says, as employers, we have to embrace this, that this is a contractual agreement between the employer and the employee. It's like, you should be very clear in the interview, like, what is it, Pon, that you want to get out of this company? Here's what I need out of you. That's a line. If you have some goals, some certification, some experience you want to get, okay, I'll provide that path for you. And as soon as that agreement's up, thank you. You made us better. We made you better. Good luck on your next adventure. And it took me a while to really understand that and more importantly, comprehend it. But there's a lot of truth to that. And so we're all, any of us that are employed, whether we signed a contract or not, we are in a contract, and that employer is in a contract with us. And once that contract has met its terms and there's nothing further for you, you move on, right? In either direction. And I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, I think that's a great thing. Point in case, Pon here, very successful in applying that same strategy. All right. So just a couple tips for employers, and feel free to jump in, Ian and Pon. Foster. So this is employers that are working with Gen Z in the workplace. foster a culture of continuous learning, provide opportunities for professional development and upskilling. Number one. Number two, embrace flexibility. Offer flexible working arrangements, whether that's remote work, hybrid, or different hours, but accommodate work that really keeps a balanced approach for Gen Z. Promote diversity and inclusion. Create an inclusive workplace that values diverse perspectives and experiences of all age, of all people. Leverage technology, use the latest tools and platforms to enhance productivity and communication and to make the Gen Z feel like you're really cool. And lastly, encourage open communication, which maybe that should be number one. Create channels for feedback and dialogue to understand and address the needs.
Yeah, I agree with all of those. I think, to the point I was making is make sure that they feel heard. I think if I was that young man's manager that was, in the video, I would make sure that they feel heard and understood and valued, and discuss how do we work together to improve this situation.
Love it.
Yep, I agree. Everything was awesome. Thanks for having me on today too. This is a great show. I'm super excited, and I think this is just great what you guys are doing on here.
Well, thank you, Pon, for being such an awesome guest and letting us pick on you and your generation for a little bit. Thank you, Ian, for bringing in the psychology and the behavioral science and quoting Brene Brown and Simon Sinek, helping us, see the bigger picture. And for you employers out there and supervisors on the front lines that are struggling with this, make sure you follow these 5 tips. And if you'd like some leadership coaching, go check out Grow Up Leadership. Ian's there. He can help you and help you become the leader that you want to be, and help promote this younger generation and helping them reach their goals and to be successful.
Future video is, I'd love to hear the comparison of Gen Z's feelings about Gen Alpha and the whole Skibbity Ohio Riz, whatever stuff that's going on there. I think that's a future conversation with for sure.
My 9-year-old just said that to me yesterday. Skibbity Ohio Riz. I'm just like, I don't understand. Yeah. Help me, somebody. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, listening to episode 2 of the Staffing Playbook podcast. Tune in every Friday. We'll be live on many of your social channels. And of course, you can check it out on Podbean and Spotify. Share with your friends, comment below. Tell us how you feel about the different generations. And more importantly, what are you doing about it? How are you embracing the diverse workforce? Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.